Hey you folks, Lumpz the Clown here, and today I'll be presenting you a new way to look at an old game, Jaws for the NES. Released in 1987 and published by LJN, yes, that LJN, Jaws is actually a pretty cool game. The object is to kill Jaws, of course, but it isn't that cut and dry. When you first start the game, you have no idea where Jaws is at until you see his fin, and by then, it's too late. This can be rectified by grabbing the receiver located at the opposite port, but simply steering there without getting the requisite number of conch shells will get you nowhere. So how does one get said requisite shells? I have no... What the fuck? Oh yeah, I forgot. Random encounters come in the form of you hit something, where your diver is unceremoniously dumped into the ocean, where jellyfish, stingrays, baby sharks, and Jaws himself do everything in their power to take your salty ass out. To get back to your boat, you'll have to fight for it, and it only gets better from there. As in any game that follows a similar formula, the stronger you get, points, power level, etc., the more random encounters you will encounter. When you kill an enemy, there's a chance that they'll drop a star, which gets you more points, a crab, which also gets you points and allows your diver to swim faster, and conch shells, which act as in-game money for the purchase of power-ups. Subsequent pull-ups into port after getting the receiver continually increases your power level for a price. Even better, every 30,000 points, you're rewarded with a mini-sub, which comes equipped with torpedoes and cannonballs. When used in combination, the mini-sub has the artillery necessary to take Jaws out quickly. But there's one problem. One hit, and it's gone. Diver status restored all of a sudden. What the fuck is that thing made out of? Tinfoil? The same applies to your boat in the event that Jaws runs into you. Any enemy striking your boat, whether it be Jaws or an errant jellyfish, will drop you into the drink faster than Bigfoot walking the plank. So let's sum up here. Necessary to gather items to complete your task. Encounters are sudden with a menacing sound effect. You never know what's waiting for you in the murky depths. Jaws can appear at any time. Does this sound familiar? Oh yeah, Jaws is a survival horror game. Now don't get your panties all in a twist. I have my reasons. Item collecting has been a staple of the survival horror genre since Haunted House. In order to escape the house, the protagonist needs to find all the pieces of a trophy while avoiding all of the various baddies. To find these pieces, the player needs to activate their candle, which also has the side effect of attracting nearby enemies. In Jaws, you have to increase your power level and or get the sub if there's any hope of you killing Jaws before the screen returns to the boat. As your power level and points increase, in-game difficulty ramps up and enemy behavior becomes erratic. The need for items to complete your task, combined with the unsettling nature of what may happen next, more than express a strong case for Jaws to be considered an NES survival horror title. But what about that receiver that you're forced to pick up the first time you pull into port? Yeah, it tells you where Jaws is through increasingly closer pings as he moves in, but imagine it from a boater's eyes. You're sitting out in the middle of the ocean. The air is calm, save for the intermittent beeps coming in on the receiver. All of a sudden, the last ping you heard was slightly closer than the previous one, and continues to grow closer and closer. Looking out upon the vast ocean, you see nothing, and before you know it, he's on top of you. Doesn't that remind you a lot of Clock Tower? As your protagonist explores an area, a slow-building crescendo of panic-inducing music follows shortly after the distant sound of closing scissors. As Scissorman draws near, the sounds of his scissors opening and closing get progressively louder until you hear that final door open and close. And by that point, it's fight or flight. So yeah, Jaws has that aspect covered, with ominous sound effects indicating that he's getting closer and closer. This game is beginning to look more and more like survival horror, if you ask me. And finally, the epic showdown with Jaws after depleting his health reminds me of perhaps the official entry of survival horror in the hearts of many. Resident Evil. In order to take out Tyrant, Chris or Jill needs to survive its onslaught long enough for Brad to drop down a rocket launcher. After securing the weapon, one well-placed shot effectively destroys Tyrant, allowing the character to escape in true B-movie fashion. The same thing happens in Jaws. The final showdown has him storming towards the boat at high speed. It is up to the player to launch a strobe at the precise moment where Jaws is directly in front of the ship's prow. With luck, once the strobe is deployed, Jaws will jump out of the water and leave himself wide open for a quick but fatal stab. After his demise, the player leaves the scene via airplane, gracefully flying off into the sunset. For those keeping count at home, that's 3 good reasons to consider Jaws a survival horror game. With so many glaring similarities to flagship titles, there's no reason that Jaws should be left out. Sure, it has its silly moments, such as the bonus scenes where the objective is to gain shells by bombing as many jellyfish as you can, but really, does that even remotely compare to the cheesy bombs that Chris drops?
So much for him! We got to the root of the problem.
You'd do the same for me, wouldn't you?
I guarantee it.
Here's hoping that I've been able to get you to see Jaws in a different light. I challenge you to pick this game up and check it out for yourself. Jaws for survival horror status. Lumpz the Clown out.